Good morning, you guys, it's Karen. How ironic, I can actually hear a dog barking. Can you hear it? It's in the courtyard where I am. I wanted to come and tell you today about things that you can do, entertainment you can do with your dog in the house that will tire them out, because obviously we can't walk them as much or as many exciting places during this whole lockdown period. I'd imagine even if you're not in full lockdown, there's restrictions, and you know the idea is to stay at home as much as possible. My dog Watson normally goes on adventures with the walker to lots of lovely different places with a big pack of dogs, and he's tired out from that. And so you need to find different ways to tire them out. And you know, the thing to remember is that if you're really feeling quite stressed by this time, which I think most of us have felt some level of stress, imagine how a dog's feeling that everything's different and they don't really quite know what's going on, and they probably pick up on our anxiety. So I think it's our responsibility to make sure we look after their mental health as well, you know, and so giving them exciting little games like this can really, really help. But I specifically wanted today to be about items that you might have to hand. The first one is a washing basket or linen basket. Really, really simple. With that linen basket, you can add, I've done it with balls. I've got a big bag of just plastic balls that I got from Asda. I've done it with Lego. I've put like a pile of Lego in there if you've got any Lego around. And then in between those, drop treats. If you don't have Lego and you don't have balls, you can use an old sheet. That's a really, really good one. It's quick for you to make up, you know, grab an old sheet or some old towels and put a few treats in between them. They need to be ones that are quite high value and that smell quite strong. So I'll sometimes put bits of ham in, or maybe tiny, tiny bits of cheese, or some real meat treats, something like that. Roll the sheet up, put it in the linen basket, and that will keep them occupied, and using their nose to try and locate the treats will be a way of tiring out their brain. Number two is if you've got any of these are those additional shelves. So you just hook it into a shelf in your kitchen cupboard or wherever, and it creates extra room. I actually discovered this was really good in the hall cupboard, but I bought it specifically to use for Watson, and I'm going to buy another one when the shop's open again, so that I can have one, you know, a couple in the cupboard and a couple for him. With this, I just get pieces of fleece, cut them up. It can be any type of material, roll them up and poke them through these holes. And so there, and then hook it onto the ironing board is the way I've done it. It depends how big or small your dog is. If you've got a really large dog, put the ironing board up full and you can hook it on like that. For me, I had the ironing board on its lowest setting and then hooked that on the end. For a really small dog, you might need to put it on the legs of the ironing board so that it's almost at their height on the floor. But that again is another one where they'll need to sniff out before they pull it. You know, they'll be looking, is there something in there? Is there worth me making the effort? And then they can pull it out and work out how to unravel the bit of material. And you can just scrunch it up and push it in there to make it easy for them. And then once they're used to it, you can start rolling it up in a mini roll like so. But obviously that would be too big. Next is a yoga mat. I'm sure lots of you have got a yoga mat. You might even have a yoga mat that you never use. That was certainly the case for me. I have used this a couple of times in the last little while because I've been doing Pilates classes just in the house, you know, on YouTube. But this is a brilliant toy for a dog, especially if your dog has never used things like this before. All you do is unroll this and put treats in it. Just put treats throughout and then roll it up so that every time there's a little bit of a roll, they get a little treat. And they will need to figure out that they need to push this to open it, you know, to get to the treats. I still use this now and again for Watson, but I've got quite a few games like this, and if I use this, he's so used to these games that he would just unroll it very quickly. So I tend to put things like a treat in a paper bag, so that's kind of like an advanced level, or I'll wrap it in a piece of material and put it throughout here. I have had comments on a lot of the games that I've showed, because on Instagram I do enrichment games pretty much daily. And a lot of comments from people saying that my dog would just bark at me or paw me until I got them the treat. But that's because they don't know what the game is. You have to teach them that this is for them. So you can start by just throwing a treat on the floor and saying, find it. And when they find it, praising them, and then throwing it a bit further. And then maybe wrap it just in a bit of material and put it in front of them and say, find it. You know, you need to teach them that it's for them to do that. And if they are the type to bark and paw at you to try and get you to give them the treat, you just ignore that. And it will take quite a few sessions of you ignoring that before they figure that they've got to do it for themselves. The fact that you ignore them will actually tire their brain out, so that will be a brain game in itself. Next is a wobble board. This is not so much hide-in treats, this is something where you would need to interact with them. So you would basically put this in front of them, and this is a shaping game, so it means that it's totally for the dog to decide, and this will really wear them out, I promise you. So you put this on the floor in front of your dog. A clicker would be great at this point if you're used to clicker training, but if not, you can just have treats and say yes. The pork, and I'm going to put that down. Good boy. And immediately he's put his paw on it, bless him, that's good. That's a clever boy. So he's obviously put his paw on it and he's just going to keep it on there thinking, well, that'll just keep getting me treats. But it won't. He'll need to put his other paw on, or take his paw off and put it back on again, which I would reward him for. Clever boy. The idea is it's like hot and cold, like the game of hot and cold. When they do anything that looks like they are making a move or a look towards this wobble board, then you click and treat them, or say yes and treat them. So to start with, you put it in front of them, you show them you've got a treat, and then if they just look at that, like initially they'll be going, well, what's that? What am I supposed to do with that? As soon as they look at it, yes, and give them a treat. Because what you're saying to them is, yes, you're getting warmer, you're looking at it, that's the thing I want you to react with, interact with even. Then you would treat them when they looked at it for a little bit longer. And then at the point where they've done that, probably I would say 3 or 4 times continuously. So they've kept looking at it and you're treating them 3 times and they think, all right, okay, all I need to do is look at it. You then stop treating them. They'll then use their brain, and there's a period here which is really difficult for most of us, where you just need to sit and wait. Just sit, don't move, hold the treat, and let them figure out what to do next. Then next they're likely to do something like paw it, or put their nose on it, or lie down on it, or something like that, and then it's like yes, and then you treat them. And again you do that 3 or 4 times, or wait till they've done it 3 or 4 times in a row, because often they'll say they put their nose on it and you treat them. They don't necessarily just nose it again, they don't necessarily just get it like that. It takes a few of them doing variations before they get, oh okay, if I keep doing this I get treated, and then when you stop treating me I need to do something else. But you're basically getting them to the point where they can put 2 paws on here and just hold the 2 paws on. That is really good for their core, and so you're actually helping them in lots of different ways. Another item you might have hanging around the house is a sock tree, and if not, you can get them very cheaply on Amazon, and I will link them for you. With this you can hang whatever you like off here. You can get really creative with this. So you could even put little bits of treat in there, but what I usually do is paper bags. So you can buy a big pack of 100 paper bags from Amazon. I will put a little treat in there in the paper bag and clip it onto that, or you can use just little bits of old material to hang them on. And like I said, once they get used to it, you can start doing things like this, like roll it up and then clip that on, and then they have to get this off and then unroll it. Sock trees are just brilliant. I love this. I think it's one of Watson's favourite games. Empty bottles. I use empty bottles for Watson all the time. Mostly I use them on, if you've seen his fun tower, a big empty bottle. I've got an empty like Robinson's squash bottle, an empty almond milk bottle, and I just make holes in them in the middle and they're threaded across a piece of wood and he can bat them round. And I also use them like this and fill them up with a piece of material. Now this is actually too thick. I need to make this a bit thinner. But just any old material, it needs to be the right size that you can get it into the bottle, but not too thin, because you want to, you push it in like this, then put a treat in, push that in, and then another few centimetres later put another treat in, and you end up with a bottle full of material. And then they need to figure out that they would need to put 1 paw on the bottle and then pull it, and as they pull it from the beginning, little treats would come out for them. So that's another really good one, in any empty bottles you've got and a bit of old material. Old bits of material, like this is an old throw and this is an old towel, are great just to do that kind of yoga roll but in miniature. So I put a couple of treats in here, roll it up, put another couple of treats, roll it up, put another couple of treats, and you can actually do that in layers. So I will do this one and then I'll roll it the opposite way in this one, and then there's, you know, it's just a whole lot of mini yoga rolls that he's got to undo. Okay, this next one is really quite advanced, but you may have something a bit smaller. I'm going to buy a smaller one actually. I bought this from Amazon. I think it was £20, something like that, and it's just storage boxes. But because they've got this plastic lip, it's great for Watson. So I fill these with, again, just bits of material with little treats in them. I've got lots of odds and sods of things that I put in here that I've made, you know, out of material in different shapes and whatnot. But for somebody that isn't used to these games, even just filling a couple of these, you don't have to fill every single one, with a treat in there or wrapped in a piece of material would be really great fun. The only thing with this one is you have to hold it so they don't knock it over. But the advanced stage of this would be to put it on its back like that, and they'd have to figure out how to get the boxes out. I haven't even done the advanced stage of that with Watson yet, because like I said, this is quite advanced on its own. I guess my thinking with this one was that you might have like a makeup storage box with just 3 drawers in it like that. I used to have quite a few of them. Not the Muji type ones, but the cheaper ones. And again, you can probably get them on Amazon. I'll see what I can find and link it for you, because they're a great enrichment toy. Toilet rolls, kind of ironic in the current situation, but empty toilet roll holders are brilliant for dogs, because you can put a treat in so simply and then just fold over the edges like so, and give that to a dog that has never had an enrichment toy, and it will keep them occupied for so long, like flipping that about, and you know, until they get to the treat inside. Now obviously a lot of these games, if not all of them, apart from maybe that plastic one there, will depend on your dog. If your dogs want to eat cardboard, then you won't be able to do this one. If your dogs want to eat materials, you won't be able to do that one. You'll need to think of something more tough, you know. But I think you would be surprised, because my friend has a lab, and I made him a Plaque Toy, which is just 3 bits of fleece, and you plait it, tie it each end. You can do that with an old tea towel, by the way. I forgot to mention that one. So you could even do it with something like this. You could just cut it into 3, tie an elastic band at one end, plait it, tie it at the other end, and then you can tuck treats into it. So I made that one for my friend's big chocolate lab, and she had said she didn't know how he would be, because he is one that will, you know, destroy things, and you know, he'll get a plush toy and it will be destroyed within minutes. Watson's the same actually. However, when you give them a toy that is an enrichment toy, somehow they know the difference, and he just snuffles happily through that plait, and to my knowledge hasn't destroyed it yet. Certainly she sent me a video of him playing with it and he didn't destroy it. And so I think you could well be surprised by your dog, that when there's treats, they might not just rip something apart. Anyway, so you can do that one thing with a toilet roll, but you can also use these, like you could fill a box with toilet rolls here and pop a little treat in each one, and that's a good way for them to search for them. But just empty boxes in general are brilliant for treats, and you can kind of layer this up as well. Like I've got a box down there, let me show you, this is actually that I've been saving these 2 boxes. I don't know what was in this one, but this one was some of the treats I use for him. And so I will put a treat in there, then put this inside, pop a couple of treats in there, then I'll pop a couple of treats in this tissue box and put that in there, a couple of treats in there and put that inside. You know, you can layer it however you want. And actually this box here has been so useful for many dogs I've had visiting. There was a little Jack Russell that came to see me, and I put a little treat in there, and he just spent ages pushing it around trying to get to the treats. Same with a little Shih Tzu that I looked after. It was one of the longer boxes actually with a smaller gap. I put a couple of treats in there and she just loved it. She was pushing it all around the living room, and her mum does that with her now, you know. So this is something that any of these sorts of boxes would be really, really good for a dog that hasn't had any kind of enrichment. Something I do, a comment that I do get is that, imagine how much mess there is in her house. This is really messy. The thing is, I think, firstly, I don't care about that, because the point is I'm giving enrichment to my dog, and it's like when you've got children painting or whatever, you don't go, oh, that's going to make too much mess. Maybe some parents do, but you know, there are things that children and dogs do that are messy, and this is one of them. But it's not dirt, you know, it's not the same as them dragging mud everywhere. It's mess that you can control. So that's the first thing I would say on that. The second thing is that I tidy up as I'm going along. When he's playing these games, I'm picking up the bits of cardboard as he goes. And so by the end of him playing with it, it's tidy again, you know, there's no issue. With the bits of material, I just wash them. There's just a bag in my linen room that I just, you know, wash them. That's not an issue either. And the third thing I've forgotten, what's the third thing? The third thing is that although it might seem like, well, that's going to take me ages to tidy up, even if you leave it until the end, because that happens if Kev's sitting with him while he's playing an enrichment game, he tends to, he's better now, but he used to just leave it till the end and I'd be like, oh my God, there's a massive mess there. If it won't take you more than 5 minutes to clear up the mess, because like I said, it's not like they're not staining the carpet or, you know, there's not mud or anything, it's just bits to pick up. But even if you do, even if it does take you 5 minutes to clean up and 5 minutes to make the toy, you will get that time back because your dog will be tired and he will sleep. He'll want to sleep after one of these brain games if he's never done one before. So you will get that time back. In the long run, you'll have more time to yourself. Just a couple of other things. That's all for the things that you can find in your house. There's probably lots and lots more that I can think of. Feel free to leave comments if you know other things that are good for using for this kind of thing. I'd love to do one of these for destroying type dogs, but like I said, maybe give your dog a chance with these things and see what happens. Watson does destroy the boxes, you know, so the only way to get into them is to rip them apart, so that's not a problem. But there are some other things you can do. Find it is one thing you can do, and that, like I said, you can start with just throwing a treat on the floor and say find it. And if they are, this is obviously only if they're a food motivated dog, but they will sniff out that treat and then you tell them well done. And then once they're used to that, you throw it a bit further away. Then you throw it to where it's out of sight and they have to find it. And then you can start hiding treats and play and find it with them. If you do that with them again for 10 minutes, they do 2 or 3 treats in each room in your house, I promise you they'll be exhausted. We still do that with Watson. It's still one of his favourite games. And the way that we kind of ramp it up a bit is sometimes to switch the lights out so that it's dark and he can only use his nose. I also do it in the garden as well, but he pretty much now knows all my hiding places. Shaping is something that you can do. Shaping is what I showed you with the Wobble Board. You can do that with any item. So if you really enjoy the session with the Wobble Board, that will last you probably a couple of weeks doing it daily until they get to the point where they can put both paws on there, you know. But you could do that with a cardboard box. You could put a cardboard box down, show that you've got a treat, and then it can be what's called free shaping, meaning that anything they do is okay, but they have to only have 3 repetitions and then do something different. Or you can have a goal in mind, so you can say, right, what I want them to do and what I'm going to hot and cold them towards is picking it up with their mouth, or nosing it, or looking inside it, or, you know, something like that, because you can do it with a huge box as well. And then you just put that item in front of them, and as soon as they look at it, yes, and give them a treat. And then they'll try lots of other things. You'll see them really get into it. It's really quite fascinating and enjoyable, I think, and very, very funny to see what your dog produces, you know. Something else you can do as well, if you have a garden, is to do a little assault course. This is something that I did with Watson last year and he loved it. We called it parkour. I'm not sure it is actually parkour. I'll try and see if I've still got the video, but I did it where, so we would start at one end of the garden and then he'd just have to jump over one thing, have to get in something else. So for us it was, I used the empty little paddling pool. Then he had to get out of that and jump up on one of the benches, then off, and then I had a football they had to like nose underneath a bench, you know, things like that. But you can just make it like a little agility course over this, stop and sit here, stop and lie down there. You know, you can make it very simple or very advanced depending on what your dog is like and what age they are and how fit they are, etc. So I will leave it at that for now. I'm happy to do more of these videos. I'm always finding new ideas from other people and, you know, coming up with my things myself, because I think once you start down this road, you're like, oh yeah, and I could also do that, and I could also do that, you know. And I think when you see how much your dog enjoys it and how much it tires them out, you will become addicted like I am. Watson is pretty much always tired and, you know, nicely tired and relaxed, and I think that is because of all the enrichment that he gets. He possibly even gets too much. So let me know how you get on with these games. Let me know what ideas you've been implementing to keep your dogs occupied in this lockdown period. Let me know if you are in a lockdown period or if you still have, you know, freedom. And I will speak to you again soon.